Hello and welcome. This is Israel Lopez, and in this video, we're reviewing Fishbowl 2015.9 Warehouse and Manufacturing Release Highlights. I'm actually making this video quite late into the release cycle. Normally, I'm really quick to the draw, and I'm able to make these videos either the same night they release or that weekend over. And for whatever reason, life got in the way, client projects got in the way, and I just wasn't able to get this video out fast enough to my liking. And I actually had a couple of people on social media ask, when's the video coming out? I really need that. And a couple of customers said the same thing. I'm like, yes, 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 I know. I'll get to it. I haven't forgotten about it, and here we are. One thing I got to say is oops. And the reason was that because the last video that I made, I said that this was going to be, that 2015-8 was going to be the last release of the 2015 series. It turns out that's not the case. For a while, that this next release was kind of indicating that in the wiki that it was going to be a 2016 release. It turns out they decided to change that. Don't really know why, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Software doesn't really care what version number it says. It's just for us for planning. And a lot of my customers ask, which version should I upgrade to and stay on for, a year. And that actually brings me to the next point about updates. Why so many? In my opinion, I'm a software guy, right? I make software. I set companies up on using the right software, and I try to do best for my customers. And sometimes the best thing for them to do is to stay on the latest update as much as possible. Nowadays, with continuous delivery and these new ideas sitting out there, it does no one any good for updates and ideas and solutions to not be used by the greater public. So browsers, websites, SaaS products, they all do these continual updates just to get from idea to the hands of people as fast as possible. And that's usually fine, except when you're doing business software like accounting or inventory control systems like Fishbowl. And I can see why people are a little frustrated by that. And I asked Fishbowl, what's the plan about these updates? Because I think people are getting a little bit of fatigue on these updates, and they want to know, what should they do? And they agree that one of the things that people used to not do for a long time was update their browser and update their browser plugins and things like that. And all sorts of security bugs. A lot of energy was spent into making sure browsers were updated until finally the browser said, "Screw it, we're just gonna update ourselves." Every time you shut down Chrome or Firefox, even Internet Explorer, they'll update on their own and then say, "Okay, you got the latest and greatest. You're secure." Not so much of a consideration in terms of Fishbowl, since it's not a publicly facing application, but we do have bugs. We do want to resolve them. But getting those updates, we're hopefully going to be a lot more streamlined down the road. I'm hearing that they're making some improvements to 2016 updates, so they happen a lot faster. They happen with more reliability, and we don't spend a lot of time worrying whether we should update or not. So hopefully that will be an issue of the past, and updates are, if we want to update or not, are going to be just do it once and we're done. Anyway, that's enough of my soapbox. One more last thing though. Customers who are looking at the warehouse scanning capabilities for Fishbowl and their warehouse and are looking for something that they would like to use in their system and maybe not quite like what are out there now, specifically around picking, packing, and shipping, please shoot me a note on my website, israellopezconsulting.com, and we'll put you in contact with a solution that maybe you might like regarding warehouse scanners and the software around those. So we've got something in the pipeline. We'd be happy to announce it, but I'm just giving some low-key announcements right now. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the updates. Highlights. We finally have address validation, and we can do this through USPS. This is amazing. I will talk about it more when we get into the actual nitty-gritty of it, but I love this feature. I've used it a little bit already. I really enjoy using it. I really enjoy the fact that it's here, and we'll be talking about it at length. We've got some changes to batch shipments. We're going to be going over those particular changes on how to batch shipments together for different companies. We've got calendar feature improvements. Fishbowl's now looking at the future, and that means looking at the calendar and looking at how to plan things and schedule things maybe a little more like an MRP. And we've got some changes to accounting exports. You could call it a bug, you could call it a feature, but let's just say that it is. We've got marked as posted, locked down. We've got some changes to export CSV templates. Not something that anybody will just pick up and say, yeah, we can sell more Fishbowl licenses because exports are better. But it helps my day-to-day lives. It helps customers go live with Fishbowl a lot easier. Done. And we have some database and report changes. I'll be talking about those specifically, and we have some highlighted bug fixes that I found interesting in the last release. Okay, let's get into it. So let's talk about address validation. A lot of my customers had asked me, about 2 of them this year, looked for an address validation solution inside of Fishbowl. And here's what I've done. I went ahead and connected a Fishbowl to their new USPS integration. You need to have a USPS account. To set that up, you have to go to their website, I believe, and get a USPS a web API tool. Registration is pretty straightforward. What happens is you go into Fishbowl, you go to Setup, Company, Tools, Module Options, and under Address Validation, you'll have this UPS account number. Now, I'm going to go ahead and change my account number after I put this video up, but point is that you go and register your own UPS Web Tools account. If you find somebody else's, that's probably not a good thing to use. Get your own. It's really important for you to have your own UPS Web Tools account, if only because you want to make sure that the address validation information is accurate. Anyway, it's easy. You go sign up. They send you an email. You copy and paste your account number, and you're done, right? And what happens is when you do this, specifically in the sales order module, you'll have this new button called Validate Address. And if I go pull up an order here, and I don't think any of these will validate. Maybe they will. No, they didn't validate. Didn't think so. So let's do a new one. Why not? Let's see here. Israel Lopez. We're going to edit the address to 27525 in the city of Mission. You're on V, maybe. V, I'll misspell it. Right not. And no zip code. Let's see what it does. Invalid city. Okay. This is why we test. For your education and mine. Let's spell that. There you go. So there's a limit. It's not foolproof. It'll capture a few misspellings here or there. See that it's some of the information is being sent back in all caps. We got the zip +4 information, and we have the full address here. So pop-up is real nice. You get this validated address box, so we can say, nope, I think the original is correct, or use validated. And it's really important that a human be involved in the validation process, specifically because it's not foolproof. When I did a project for a customer to automatically validate addresses of all issued orders inside of Fishbowl as a batch process, I noticed that a lot of the addresses that got converted removed the address numbers, the street numbers, and gave ranges instead. That's probably because it was on a highway or because it wasn't really well defined. The information that was there wasn't helpful. So the only thing we ended up doing with that solution was we just relied on the is residential or is not residential. At the time, we were using UPS's data to do this, and you'll notice that this is not an actual residential address. This is my UPS PO box, but I don't think that information is being pulled over from USPS's website. So just be aware of that. The other thing that I noticed that is not necessarily available when you go create a new customer. So test customer, and you go through this process. It'd be really nice for that button, that validate button, to be right down here to allow us to validate it once, so that it both goes to the build to and ship to accurately the first time, and we don't have to do it again. I hear that that is something that's going to be done in the next release. Is definitely a criticism of it of now, but they're listening to it and planning for that in the future. Okay, let's talk about shipping. I really like this batch shipment module. However, it confuses people a lot. One of the ways that it confuses people is that sometimes the orders that get checked off or don't show up is based on information like whether it's been packed or not. Before, this module really only worked if you packed a shipment, and most customers didn't do that. They just want to say, "Oh, it's all there. I'll just ship it all anyway." So now what they've done is they have got a new module option to allow you to decide which selection default for the batch it will be. So you can say all orders, no orders, so you have to check them off manually, or all packed orders. Right. So now we have the ability to say all, and we can use the batch shipment feature all in one swipe. Good stuff. I see quite a few customers using this because they don't pack. They just send it out the door because it's all will call. They just get it out the door in one shot, and it'll speed up their shipment processing all that faster. Okay, let's talk about the calendar. Now, this is something that I was pretty excited to see come across, only because we've kind of ignored the calendar since it came out. I've shown the calendar to a couple of customers. I've tried to expound or wax poetic about how you can use it for this or that, and it really hasn't taken a lot of traction. So let me pull up a build material here, and I want to do a quick build. And that should give me a manufacturer order. I'm going to cancel it actually right now. And I'm going to go back to the calendar module. So you can see that a manufacturer order is on the calendar for today, because that's when I created it. And we can double click into it and start editing it from there. But what I'd like to start seeing, and this is something that's in the calendar module now, is now we can right click and edit a calendar. And we can now specify a category. And these categories are something that we can create. So we go to categories here on the tab, and we right click and we do a new category. And some of the examples that I've seen Fishbowl offers is we could call this, we could assign this entry to machine 1. And we right click on that, edit, go to category, machine 1. Right. So now we can start seeing maybe by color or by data, what does machine 1 work on in this given time. Now we still can't necessarily change too much of these calendar entries here. They just have calendar entries for event date and start dates, but they don't necessarily change the data that's in. Oh wait, it does. Oh, I'm surprised. I think they finally changed that, so you can actually reschedule things based on the calendar. I did not test that the first time. Anyway, so point is, okay, learn something new. That's why we do this. The calendar module looks like now you can kind of reschedule things around based on the document, things like that. You can actually have company calendars and things like that. Not nearly the same thing as shared calendars and maybe Exchange or a Google Calendar, but now at least it has some semblance to planning. I'd really love to see purchase orders. I'd really love to see sales orders in here still, but at least this is a first step, and categories is another neat piece of data that we can use for not only reporting but also planning and things like that. Okay, let's get into the accounting exports. So recently, this is something that someone discovered. If you gave someone access to the accounting module and didn't give them access to the standard export at all, so they could view this but not export, they could still click on mark as posted and then export, which is pretty bad. I'm glad that they changed that, and I'll show you where you can go and clean that up. So you go to user group, set up user group, and let's go to, let's say, accounting. And you go to rights, accounting rights. And now we have an option for mark as posted. So maybe you have a junior accountant or staff accountant that needs to be able to export, but you don't want to give them the rights to repost or change the integration information or change module options. You just want to give them the access to just export. This would be exactly how you do that, and you should feel comfortable that you can do that without any danger or risk. So I'm glad they fixed that. Kind of embarrassing, but not many people have access to accounting modules where we needed to do that, but I'm glad it got fixed. Next is we've got some changes to the data module. Not necessarily too important, but I'm really glad that they haven't forgotten about this module at all. So if you do a query like sales order data, you've got a nice new little row count here, indicating how many pieces of data. It saves me from having to do like a count star on the query to figure out how many sales orders I'm looking at, but it's definitely something useful. Remember that we recently did the new tables module, the table tab. Still kind of, I'm not really sure about that, but I'm glad that they're spending more time on this. Again, I would love to see parameters. I would love to see hidden queries. I would love to see prompts and things like that, but eventually we'll get there. A lot of my customers are using this, by the way. I think it's a really good solution. I literally just copy and paste them a query and say, look, here's your report. And they copy and paste it, run it, and they're happy. Not to say that reports aren't still important. Sometimes you need a piece of paper, but for really quick analysis that you need to get out of a database, I think data modules your first stop. And I have a course on how to create queries, and we can work together on solutions for that. Okay, let's talk about exports. One of the things that I normally do when I help customers is I help them go live with Fishbowl. And a lot of the times I give them homework. It's like, well, look, your inventory quantities in QuickBooks is inaccurate. You need to import. You need a count. You need to import. And here's the import file. And I would go through this whole process of exporting a template, looking at it, marking it up, and then giving it to them. Or they'd find this wizard and they say, okay, I need to import inventory. How do I do that? They go to this documentation, this page here, this preparation instructions, and they kind of gloss over. It's like, I'm supposed to do what? And now I can instruct them to say, go to the export template, and that will give you a nice piece of data to work with. So now we've saved a template, and if I'll show you how that looks, even though many of you aren't going to be looking at this too often. Oh, thank you, Excel. Let's see what we got here. Oh, this is just Ready to cooperate? Okay, cool. It's just a blank export without the existing data, because that's what would take up a lot of time. Maybe a customer had, or I was using a Fishbowl database where it had a lot of data in it. There was no way for me to just export these headers into a spreadsheet. Now I can, and I'm really grateful for that. So this will, like I said, I won't sell seats of Fishbowl, but at least it's helpful for helping people go live. Okay, next what we're going to talk about is database changes. So as Fishbowl is improving their software and adding changes, adding features, they're going to be adding database changes. They're now, it seems like they're going to be promising to us that they're going to have a separate section just on database changes, and I really am glad about this. I also, because I'm a Fishbowl partner, I received some communication from Fishbowl regarding some internal documentation or internal changes to reports, not something that's customer facing, but just for people who do develop reports for Fishbowl to get better information sooner about the changes that are going to occur for Fishbowl specifically. So there's going to be a new section in the release notes indicating what will be changed. There's not anything more beyond this right now, but at least it's another signal telling us, yeah, things will be changing. Okay, let's get into the next section. Bug fix highlights. So some of these are the ones that I've reported in, specifically scheduled backup warnings. I came to a customer, took over a new customer's site, and it was checking their backups and it indicated success. I was like, oh yeah, your backups are good. And then I investigated it some more and it's like, no, your backups are not good. I don't even see where they are. What happened here? Well, um, they were backing up to a drive that was not plugged in anymore, right? And I never got a message, or the customer never got a message indicating that it was not working. So I told my contacts at Fishbowl, and they said, "Oh my goodness, yeah, we realized that it just didn't find the folder, so it never indicated the problem." So now that's fixed. I don't know what the chances are of that, or people not catching their backups going to the right folder. I think you noticed that, but this customer didn't. So uh, just PSA, just go ahead and check your backups. Make sure that they actually work. Do a test restore. That's always best practice. That should be part of your disaster recovery planning policy to your company. And if not, go get one, make one, make sure. We had some export to CSV issues that were fixed, specifically in to certain types of data that weren't getting exported correctly. Those are not fixed. States are no longer required for imports. I had this issue recently with purchase orders and sales orders imported from an old system where we had a lot of international orders. We ended up having to create the states manually. This was not anything that I liked, but no longer an issue in 2015-9. We see some report updates, specifically bugs to reports. There's too many for me to review here. There's about 10 of them that came across. Definitely jump into the Fishbowl release notes to figure out which reports got changed, but they were all over the place, so they were just cleaning things up. And finally, customers had some issues with kits with prices, fixed prices on sales orders. They weren't getting added, or they weren't getting added to the API, and that's something that that's kind of where I told people don't use 2015-8 if they're going to be using kits. That's now fixed in 2015-9. Kind of embarrassing, but hey, it happens. And there's more bug fixes. So some of the ones that are kind of important, not important, it really depends. These are just the ones that I'm highlighting now. Okay. And one last thing about reports and database updates. Remember that the changes that Fishbowl makes are mostly additive now. We went through this process in 2015 where they had to change the database structure significantly in order for things to progress and move forward. But now we're going to be changing things called report helpers, and that changes access to different areas of Fishbowl code to pull things a little easier than a query. So about 10 calls are being replaced with new ones that work better, that are more efficient, and doesn't cause, unfortunately, the QuickBooks export to fail. The fix, you literally just copy and paste new ones back into the field. So customers that I'm converting to, I'll know which ones are being changed and make sure that's getting done. And that's it. Earlier, I made a mention about warehousing and solutions and barcode scanners, and just keep an eye out for a product called Beep One. If you're interested in getting a sneak peek about that, please send me an email. I've got some informal demo videos to share with you, but we'll be putting together a big marketing push on Beep One, and hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks, and have a good day.